What is going on, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome to another episode of New Era Prep Nightly on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. I'm your host with the most, no need to boast, Christian Proscia, live from my basement for another episode of New Era Prep Nightly. I'm joined here with my producer, Mr. Toby Schulman. Toby, thank you again for producing. I'm going to plug him like I did last week. Make sure you tune into his baseball-centric show, Back to the Dugout. Also tune in to the La Stella Report, where me and Toby carry that show. I don't know what that host is doing half of the time. The La Stella Report, it's a dying show. Make sure you tune into Back to the Dugout the most. But week one is right around the corner. Starting tomorrow, the regular season kicks off. As it starts, multiple programs are hoping to get their season off on the right foot as the Path to States begins now. A lot of teams are coming in with a lot of momentum. I know I've used the word a lot. I'm going to keep doing it. Sue me. But a lot of momentum going into this week after some big preseason victories. I said it last week, or I said it Monday. A lot of teams also, unfortunately, took an L. You win some, you lose some. That I know is home runs. That's just the way life is. But don't hit the panic button yet, guys. The regular season has not started. Stats haven't counted. Wins and losses have not counted yet. Let's have a day this week. Week one features multiple marquee matchups across the Quad County area as we see some familiar crosstown rivalries and some out-of-state national foes hit the gridiron throughout the next couple of days. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of all of that, I want to pull up our Palm Beach County power rankings for week one, just so we can dive into some matchups and not give it away. So, Toby, pull it up, baby. All right. 1 second. Sorry, my future co-host later in this episode had a quick question for me. But as you can see, first off, shout out to Ryan for making another banging graphic. We've got Atlantic staying number one after their dominant win over Palm Beach Central. Number two, West Boca after a dominant win over Jupiter. Number three, Santa Lucia's moving up two spots actually after their victory over St. Andrews. Somerset also moving up 2 spots. Benjamin moving up 2 spots. Kings moving up 2 spots after big victories for them. Everybody was eating in the top 6 right there. Palm Beach Central falls to number 7 on the power rankings after a loss to Atlantic. I'm expecting the Broncos to move up at some point over the next couple of days. Stay tuned for that. Number 8, Cardinal Newman, same thing. They lost to defending state champion Homestead on the Broward Showcase, or week 1 of the Broward Showcase. Number 9, Spanish River making the cut after being an honorable mention last week. The Sharks had a nice jamboree victory over Port St. Lucie and over Lake Worth. They will be facing off against Park Vista later this week. Number 10, coming out of my bubble, is Pahokee. The Blue Devils had a very nice victory over Boynton Beach. I'm expecting a nice matchup for Pahokee this week that'll really test to see how the remainder of their season is going to go. My eyes aren't that good, but we've got honorable mentions. St. Andrews, after a loss to Santa Lucia's and being at the bottom end of the power rankings, we had to drop them a little bit. Seminole Ridge, I'm moving you guys up even with a close loss to a very good Martin County team. I like Ridge going into this year. I think that Ridge is going to be just fine. And then a shocker that I wasn't really expecting going into this year was Wellington cracking the honorable mentions of the week 1 power rankings. Shout out Welly High for a dominant win over Suncoast. The Wolverines are looking good. They're pretty red hot. I'm very interested to see what they're going to do this week. But Toby, we can get rid of that graphic and go back to my beautiful face. Oh, look at that handsome devil. All right. Regular season kicks off tomorrow. I don't know who's more excited than me. I think I'm more hyped than some of the players. But we're going to headline the week with number 5 Benjamin traveling to number 2 West Boca. think that's going to be a very good game. I like West Boca defending home field advantage. However, Benjamin has some dogs on that team. First off, want to shout out tight end, defensive end Preston Douglas. I think Douglas is going to have a very strong game because it's very hard to guard tight ends, especially in high school. I think Douglas is going to use his physicality to his advantage and just body people. I'd also like to shout out linebacker Adam Balloon Ali because Balloon Ali is one of the top linebackers in the state and in the nation. I think Adam is going to have a field day, really getting a lot of tackles in the open field against a run-heavy West Boca offense. However, I think West Boca, like I said, defends paradise. Shout out FAU. And they defend their home field advantage. I like the Bulls' star power going into this year and into this game, having running back Javian Mallory, 4-star 2026. Quarterback Mason Mallory, 3-star out of 2026 as well. Also a lefty. I like lefty quarterbacks. Shout out Cam Fancher. Congratulations on winning the FAU starter job. I'd also like to shout out FAU commit defensive back Damon Allen. Alongside him is his 4-star 2026 counterpart, Jaden Broadnax, wide receiver DB Mark Hannaford, and on the D-line, shout out to the boys, Demetrius Gathers and Xavier Reed. All of those guys, I think, are due for another big game. Also, if you didn't notice, I'm just going to really highlight and dive into the top 10 matchups. I'm not going to spend 20 minutes doing every game, I promise. Another game tomorrow, Dr. Garcia versus Lake Worth. I like Garcia going into this game. I think Caleb Butler is going to have a field day with his very talented receiver core. Another game, Centennial versus honorable mention Wellington High. I like Wellington going into this game. Like I said, I think Wellington is going to keep a hot streak alive. Avant-Garde versus Inlet Grove. I think Inlet takes that game. And Pinecrest versus Oxbridge. I think Pinecrest takes that game in a nail-biter. Traveling down south to week 2 of Broward Showcases. Broward versus the World. We've got Peachtree Ridge from Georgia traveling to Monarch High. I like Monarch going out of that game. And then a very highly rated game, I think Miami Northwestern versus Coconut Creek. I like Miami Northwestern and Teddy Bridgewater's squad taking that one. After a very high-powered slate of early matchups on Thursday, Friday games include, and sorry, this is going to be a lot more games, everybody. Palm Beach Gardens traveling to number 1 Atlantic. I like Atlantic coming out of this game. I think that Atlantic's star power and coming off of a almost 50-point blowout victory against Palm Beach Central is going to roll over very nicely into another victory for the Eagles. If you missed the interview with head coach Jamel Murray and quarterback Lincoln Graff following their superlative victories for Kickoff Classic, make sure to tune into Monday's episode. It was a pretty good one. I did all right. It was more carried by Lincoln and Coach Murray, and with Toby's excellent producing. I'm all right. Number 4, Somerset Canyons traveling to Lantana for their matchup against Santa Lucius. I'm not giving a prediction on that game because I don't want to lose friends, and I don't want that because I know people are going to clip it at the end of the game and say that I'm an idiot. So I'm going to keep myself quiet. St. Andrews traveling to number 6 Kings Academy. I like Kings going into this game. This game is always a shootout. Every year it is a shootout between TKA and St. Andrews. I like TKA coming out on top following a big win against Park Vista. Number 7, Palm Beach Central traveling to the Muck for their matchup against number 10, Pahokee. I think Palm Beach Central gets back on the right track and defeats the Blue Devils. Number 8, Cardinal Newman versus Monsignor Pace down south, traveling down to the 305. I like Newman coming out of this game. I like the majority of Newman's schedule. I think it's pretty easy wins for the Crusaders. Park Vista traveling to the Shark Pit. is I think what they call it, for their matchup against number 9 Spanish River going down to Boca. I like Spanish River. I think Champ Smith and Blake Wallace are going to feast against a respectfully questionable Park Vista secondary. Jupiter versus Dwyer. It's a nice little crosstown rivalry between Dwyer based out of Palm Beach Gardens, and Jupiter. This year it's being held in Palm Beach Gardens, and I believe it is a district game. So for the first time in history, it's a district game. So shout out. I think Dwyer comes out on top for this game. Boca High versus Boynton Beach. I like Boynton coming out of this game. I think that Coach Mendoza and the wing T offense will reign supreme against this game. Glade Central versus honorable mention Seminole Ridge. I've got Seminole Ridge. I think 4-star linebacker Ty Jackson is going to dominate against a very questionable Glade Central offense. Palm Beach Lakes traveling to Coral Springs. I like Coral Springs coming out of that game. Don't really have a lot of analysis going in, but I think it's going to be a close one. I think Lakes just narrowly takes an L. John I. Leonard versus Forest Hill. I like Forest Hill coming out of this one. I really like Forest Hill's offense. I think they're a very underrated core, and I think Hill comes out on top for their home opener, regular season home opener. Suncoast versus Olympic Heights. I like Olympic Heights. Nothing really much to say about that game. Royal Palm versus Port St. Lucie. I like Royal Palm. I'm very interested to see what Royal Palm is going to do the remainder of the year. I really like Royal Palm. I think that they're a gutsy, ballsy team going into this year. They're walking with confidence going into the regular season after having a couple down years. I think Royal Palm, the new Royal, is going to be something to watch, especially with Coach Kenyon and with quarterback Max Greiner leading the way. Going to travel up north. Vero Beach versus Ugal. I think Vero Beach wins pretty handedly. Fort Pierce Westwood versus John Carroll, a little 7-7-2 matchup. I like Westwood coming out of that one. For the FAU fans at home, John Carroll is the alma mater of current Owl defensive end Wilkie Denaud. Want to shout out Wilkie. Jensen Beach versus South Fork, another cross-county matchup. I like Jensen. I think Jensen had a very solid win over Centennial last week, and I think they're going to continue being red hot. Treasure Coast versus Osceola. I don't even know who's going to win that game, honestly, because Osceola has some star power, especially on their defense with FAU commit linebacker Robert Lee, and with Miami commit linebacker Elijah Melendez. I think I'm going to give it to Osceola in a nail biter just because of the commits. Martin County versus Sebring at Sebring. I like County coming out of it. I think County is going to have a very solid win over Sebring. Just travel 45 minutes north to the Treasure Coast. Now we're going to go back down south to the Broward Showcase. Lake Mary from Orlando is traveling to play Cardinal Gibbons. I like Gibbons coming out of that game, like I said, in a nail-biter. Nationally ranked number 6 Milton from Georgia is traveling to face nationally ranked number 20 American Heritage Plantation. I like Heritage Plantation. I think that the duo of Texas commit Dia Bell and wide receiver Miami commit Malachi Tony is a very strong matchup, one of the best ones in South Florida. I like Heritage coming out of that game. Hoover from Alabama is traveling to Western. I like Western coming out of that one. Lakeland is going down to number 15, nationally ranked Miami Central. I like the Rock Boys. I think Beckham Kritza is going to continue finding Nashawn Montgomery for more blur balls down in the Mecca. Give me Miami Central. Toby's nodding agreeingly. We all know that Toby's favorite color is blur. Miami Norland versus Miramar. I think Norland gets right back on the right foot. We're a nationally ranked program. Unfortunate loss for them from Armwood on last Saturday. I think Norland gets back on the right foot. I think EJ Yapor is going to help lead the squad to victory as he normally does. He's the Dade County career passing yards leader for a reason, and he's still got another year to just continue cementing of why he's one of the best to ever come out of here. We've got some more Saturday action. Unfortunately, there's no college football, so let's keep pumping out some high school games. I'm not complaining because it gives me something to do with my life. Saturday, myself and Dan are going back to the 305. We're nationally ranked number 2. Bishop Gorman from Vegas is traveling to nationally ranked 11 St. Thomas Aquinas. I like Gorman coming out of that game. I think it's going to be a lot closer than most people think, but I like Gorman coming out of that game. And then number 4 ranked St. John Bosco from California versus number 9 ranked, once again nationally, not my rankings. I'm not good like that. Max Prep's got me beat. But number 4 Bosco versus number 9 Chaminade Madonna. I like the Nod boys coming out of that one. I think I'm very interested to see what Miami Central, or not Miami Central, excuse me, guys. Very excited to see what Chaminade's going to put up against St. John Bosco. It's a matchup I wish we got last year, but we're getting it this year. Well, that's all of the high school games going into this week with a little bit of a projection. But before we cut to a commercial break, I would like to announce our week 1 game of the week, where we are taking it to the battle for Boynton. Number 4 Somerset Canyons versus number 3 Santa Lucius, coming out of Palm Beach County, is the New Era Prep game of the week. Going in on Friday. Stay tuned for coverage of that game. Myself will be there. Shot by Mar will be there. And I Don't Speak will be there, providing live coverage. But that was a very long yap session. I'm not going to lie, everybody. I need a halftime break. DJ Toby's going to cook up some good music. I'm going to get some water, and we'll be right back with a special guest interview who y'all will see shortly. Stay tuned, everybody. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the bottom part of New Era Prep Nightly here on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network. I'm your host, Christian Proscia, and we are currently awaiting our special guest, Mr. Mike Fabian, who is like me, very avid ball knower, but with the Treasure Coast Area 772. He's experiencing some technical difficulties. I'm experiencing some vocal difficulties, apparently. But while we're waiting on Mike, I would like to just highlight him and his work because, like I said, going up to the 772 area, there is nobody more knowledgeable about the athletes and high school football than Mike. He travels all over. He all over the 14 teams in the Treasure Coast area. He is constantly doing recruiting trips with the athletes, and he's one of the top photojournalists in the 772 area. But Mike has just entered the waiting room. I gave him a little bit of a build-up. Hopefully he's able to really show that ball knowledge. Mike, you ready to join in? All right, Toby, let's put him on the screen and let's unmute that mic. Mike. All right. I am joined here with Mr. Mike Fabian. Mike, how's it going, my friend?
It's going good. It's going good. Always good to talk to my friends over there down south and give a little bit of my feedback and knowledge of what I can possibly or what I know.
Mike, avid 772 ball knower out here. Can we just talk about your experience? Because I definitely missed some stuff when given your intro. How did you really get into being where you are today?
So essentially, I started off, went to school for sports broadcasting. I thought I had a great voice, but I had a face that was built for radio rather than TV.
Agreed. Agreed.
so so started to do that. Got involved with sports, loved sports from a very young age, and then actually Treasure Coast, the Titans back when they had Eden James. I locked in kind of with them and started putting together videos with them. Went down and actually helped coach for the American Heritage Game. Unfortunately, some things took place, stopped coaching, and then I was blessed. And actually, I'm wearing the shirt now. The Treasure Coast Elite College Tour, which I heard you speaking on, I got involved with and met of all those kids from all across the county and that all went to different schools. And that's where really where the love and the passion started to help out the whole area and to try and get around and see all the teams for what they are.
Mike, being one of the top content creators in the 772 area, how have you been really able to balance that out with having your own family, dude? You're not like me. You're not some broke college student. You've got people depending on you. How have you really been able to make that work while still be able to pursue your passions and dreams?
You know, the one thing about my kids and they're very understanding of chasing your dreams. Like I want to be able to look at my children one day, and when they go and they pursue their goals and their happiness, I want to be able to say, you know, go out there, do whatever you want, don't think about a paycheck, chase your dream, and do what you are passionate about. And so they're very understanding of those things. Sometimes, my oldest daughter, who's actually in high school, goes to Port St. Lucie High. She attends a lot of the games that I go to. She's almost like my best friend. She doesn't put herself on the sidelines, not yet. But she gets to travel along, and then the little one, truthfully, I got two daughters. It's looking like the little one might be the next football player. I don't know. She's really engulfed into the football world. Outside of here, I do freelance work for Fox Sports, ESPN, CBS, and now NBC for this year, predominantly Miami Dolphins games. So they're really engulfed in the game of football. So they all really appreciate it, and they all love to see dad out there.
Yeah, and dude, that's awesome. Being able to just pair your love for football and your love for your family. Unfortunately for you, despite your expertise as a Dolphins guy, you grew up in the I wouldn't say great, state of Ohio, where you are unfortunately a Browns fan. But we've got some Ohio love out in the 772 with Vero Beach four-star linebacker TJ Alford committed to the Ohio State University. Had to give a pause after the. I know how y'all Ohio people are. But you and TJ have a special connection. Can we just talk about how he's been like how you've really impacted him and you've seen him grow and just some things outside of football?
Honestly, as much as I want to say that I've been able to impact TJ's life, he's impacted mine on a greater level. I mean, the man's character is absolutely um, some one of the best that I've ever seen. Kid is taught me more about life than I could ever teach myself. Me and him, we met on my first ever college tour, and that's where we met. And we kind of both had the same goal. It was like, hey, he wanted to be a Buckeye and I wanted to help him get there. So, what's the better way of doing that? And it's content creation. And we were able to, 365 days later, almost to the date, he received the scholarship to Ohio State, and that phone call was extremely special. I'm very big on chase your dreams, and that was one of those moments where we both achieved the goal that was a dream for both of us. Like for me to be able to help someone and be a part of the Ohio State program in a sense, by helping with recruiting and or just helping them see TJ for what he is and his talent. It was a great honor. I mean, like I said, he's helped me as far as inside the football world, outside of the football world, more than anybody else that I could ever imagine. He's taught me more about myself, and also comes from a great family. Mother and father are both great. Stepdad's great. Sister, all of them. They're all loving people, and you can see where his character truly started at, and it started at the household.
So I want to talk a little bit more about Vero while we got them. As we can see here, let's go through the power rankings a little. We got Vero 1, Westwood 2, Jensen 3, County 4, TC 5, Centen or excuse me, John Carroll 6, Centen 7, Sebastian River 8, Fort Pierce Central 9, South Fort 10. As y'all can tell, I really have bad eyesight. Honorable mentions Port St. Lucie, where your daughter apparently has to watch some bad football. St. Edwards, Okeechobee, and Tradition Prep. What going into the season with the preseason games and then coming out of those, when you were helping make those rankings, yes, I said it, everybody. Fabian Digital Media was a contributor for the New Era Prep times Bleacher Brothers Power Rankings. But coming out of those games, what did you really like, especially at the top end of the 772?
Well, Vero, obviously, I have high regard for Vero. They're led by freshman quarterback Champ Mons, who looked as polished as an upperclassman would look. That was kind of like the only question mark going into the season that I had, and he showcased himself for his first varsity game better than I could have imagined. He looks polished and ready to go, and Vero has set themselves up as the number one team in the area due to all of the talent. They have an influx of upper or underclassmen. They're led by a great upperclassmen group. They took in some transfers in the offseason, and that's sort of where I led with the number one, Vero being number one. As far as Fort Pierce Westwood, obviously another team loaded up with talent. We could talk about Colton Foster. We could talk about Jordan Crutchfield. We could talk about Travian Townsend, and the list goes on. And yes, there is another Mons. I know Jabari Mons was our Jalen Mons got out of there last year, and now we have Jabari Mons who's going to be in there fulfilling what his brother was doing as well, and led by obviously a great coach and Coach Coquel. So Fort Pierce Westwood and Vero, as far as talent goes, nothing short of it. Jensen Beach this past week, they showcased themselves to a level that made them have to move up. You have Johnny Aaron. I think that's how you say his name. I just know him as Johnny. One of my favorite athletes in the area, very respectable kid, and he has a cannon, an absolute cannon, which I will be posting a video from my experiences at the Vero Beach game and at the Jensen Beach game, and that will kind of showcase that. And Martin County is always one of those teams led by Coach Harris that is going to sneak in there, they might not have that 4-star. They might not have that big name athlete that you're looking for, but they have a whole entire team as a unit that collectively will put together great football games and make them to be an excellent program. And then obviously, here's the biggest one, the Treasure Coast Titans. Now, Treasure Coast lost a lot. They lost a lot. But the thing about them is they're led by Coach Irv Jones, and Irv is one of the best coaches that I've ever been around. I mean, that program is so disciplined. You have to be for running the ball 97% of the time. To be as physical as they are and to be as disciplined as they are, I'm never able to count them out. So as my top five goes, I'm sitting pretty comfy with how things have shaped out from this past week, and I'm excited to see what these programs put together for the rest of the year.
Vero Beach, like you said, very talented underclassmen core, but they did lose a lot in the offseason. Guys like Tyler Aronson going to SMU, quarterback, Tutu Griffin going to Western Kentucky, and then Isaiah Roberts graduating. Those three guys were pretty much the core nucleus of a very strong senior leadership at Vero. But then, like you said, they've got another good core with TJ and with RJ Jones. How is this talented senior core going to lead the team while also developing the future and building up that young core?
Phenomenal, just based off of being around them, and then obviously with the relationship that I have with RJ and TJ, talking to them, they've kind of took on the role of being the role models for this upcoming season, and giving those kids what they've learned and everything along those lines. And another senior that is one of my favorite players in the Treasure Coast is Afion Rivers. He doesn't get a lot of things. He doesn't get talked about enough, to be honest with you, but he's one of the best linebackers in the area, that I would have to say. And but they've taken on that responsibility of teaching these young guys. I mean, you got underclassmen like EJ White, you got Latravius Woods, you got Champ Mons, you obviously got Champ Smith, who is probably looks like he could be playing at college football right now, on that offensive line. And then you got Devin Green, who kind of filled in, playing that role for, or taking the spot in which Tutu was in. And then Amir Shabazz on the outside at corner. So they've taken what they've lost, and to me, they've added to it. And then with the nucleus that they already had, this is a very dangerous football team. I have high hopes for them, and I'm excited once again to see what they do. And like you just said, I believe with the experience that TJ and RJ have, and then obviously the other seniors collectively, they're going to be able to take those young guys and mold into something that is going to be great for Vero's future.
We talked about it a little bit earlier, but the 772 is a very top heavy county. It feels like, but it feels like the gap between those top teams, especially in the top five, is closer than ever. Obviously, right now, Vero's got a very large target on their back, so you could probably hit with a nuke. But what is the battle for county supremacy going to be like for 2, 3, 4, 5? How will they be able to possibly usurp Vero? And how will Vero have to play King of the Hill? And how will they be able to stay on top, in your opinion?
So obviously, Vero just got to not beat Vero. The only times that I've ever seen Vero end up losing games was they beat themselves. Obviously, they lost to Treasure Coast twice last year, and that's another testament to what Irvin Jones has been able to do over there at Treasure Coast, and the physicality of that football team. As far as the supremacy goes, we got great match. I wish that we could put them all in a tournament right now, just so we could see who is the best in the area. Um, I think that each one of them has their own special traits. Obviously, Vero's separating themselves from the others right now, and the battle looks great. I mean, Fort Pierce Westwood, come to think about it, think about like 2 years ago. There was a team that wasn't even close to touching 500, and now they're being talked about as one of the best teams in the area. And that's a special honor and a testament to what Coach Coquel has done over there, and the talent that he's brought in, and the coaching staff that he's surrounded by. I mean, you look at the coaching staff that Fort Pierce Westwood has; it's one of the top in the area. And then Jensen Beach, they're so polished. They were so polished. You look at them, and that's a veteran led team. So they're going to be one of those teams to watch out for, because they're older, they're very mature, and they're led by Coach Caffey, who is one of the, once again, definitely in the upper echelon of coaches in the area, if not the state. So the battle looks beautiful. I'm excited because I'm the one that gets to watch these games. I mean, you got Martin County versus Jensen Beach. You're gonna have Vero versus Treasure Coast, and that's just in one weekend. That's just in the end of October. So the battle for the supremacy, man, I can't pick a winner right now. And I told these guys I wasn't gonna pick a winner to be the best in the area yet. I have too much love for every single one of them, but it looks like it's going to be shaping out to be a great year. And then you have those 6 and 7s, just so you know. Centennial, as bad as that score looked, defense was phenomenal in the first half. They played great. And I'm anxious to see, because when a great defense when we have a great defense out there, it allows your team on offense to do things that you're not that you're going to be able to take those extra chances. You're going to be able to get creative. So it was the first game, and then Mason Brown sadly transferred from Tradition Prep. He went down early in the first half, and I would have loved to see what that rest of that game looked like because the offense was starting to gel. They're another team, Centennial too. They're just my sleeper because they have a bunch of transfers that just came in. They have Anthony Sage, they have Cam Harris, they have Sebastian Polinice, and all of these guys that just came over there. That chemistry is just going to develop over time. And once they reach their full potential, we got a great 1 through 7. I feel like in the Treasure Coast.
Avid ball knower Mike Fabian. I'm going to keep saying it because, wow, this dude knows more than me with Palm Beach. To be fair, you've got 14 teams to study. I've got 35. But, dude, absolutely elite ball knowledge out here. But in last week's kickoff classic games, those top end teams that we were talking about all secured wins, most in blowout fashion. Martin County had a nail biter over Seminole Ridge, ended up being one of the better games of the weekend. How do you think that those victories in the preseason will set the stage for a solid season as a whole from this county?
Well, you know how it goes. You get that first win, and you get those. You dust off the cobwebs from the summer, and you just basically, you take what you learned in those games, whether it be about your team or the other team, and then you start applying it throughout the year. That's the one thing with kickoff classics is I don't take too much stock in it, but I definitely take a little bit of stock in it. Um, the big thing is I believe these guys are going to carry over what we've seen in the kickoff classics, apply it, and even extend it in great lengths. Maybe we're going to see Champ Bonds get more comfortable in the pocket, and then Coach Lenny, another phenomenal coach, um, open up the playbook even more for him because as the years go or as the weeks go by, he's just going to become more and more and more prepared for the varsity level. Fort Pierce Westwood had high hopes for them going down south. I wish I was able to go to that game. Heard nothing but great things. Obviously, Travian Townsend making plays. Get familiar with that name because you're going to hear it a lot, a lot, and a lot. Kid is an absolute baller. Um, Jensen Beach. The one thing it took a little bit for their offense to get going. They got set up by their defense. Whether it be two fumble recoveries, I believe they had, and 3 interceptions, set them up with great field position to be able to maneuver. So I believe Jensen, we're going to see a little bit more or a little bit different team through them throughout the weeks because obviously they're going to play against teams that don't commit turnovers in that type of fashion or allow that type of field position. And then Martin County, how about that? Going down the Seminole Ridge, getting that win. I mean, obviously the win column doesn't change because it's a kickoff classic, but a confidence booster because Seminole Ridge is a great football program. And for them to be able to win that nail biter in that fashion, my guy Vaughn O'Brien throwing, I believe it was the game winning touchdown. I mean, that's going to take that confidence and build throughout the weeks. And it's going to create, once again, like I said, a great football team. Obviously, Treasure Coast lost to Lake Wales, I believe it was. Very close game. And, hard to say that you're going to take a win from a loss, but Lake Wales is a heck of a football program. I mean, they're a great football program over there. And so to be able to be competitive in those games when you have a young nucleus and you have, I believe it was, new offensive line, new secondary, new quarterback. I mean, that's just for them another confidence boost to know that we're not far off. We're not there, but we're not far off. So anxious to see where these teams build. And obviously, the chemistry is just going to get better and better, especially you understand with the new transfer portal. I mean, we got whole new teams out there. So for these guys to get that experience, get those, the top teams getting those blowout wins in those type of fashion, it just creates that type of chemistry and bond with the programs because nothing makes you closer than winning. So it's going to be, I'm anxious to see where they build off of that. Most of all, what they take from what they learned on their offensive side of the ball and what they learned from the defensive side of the ball and how they apply it. And most of all, evolve from it through over the year.
I want to keep talking about Westwood a little more because Coach Coquel is a good friend of mine, and I'm hoping he's watching this. I'll send it to him if he's not. But Westwood's another team that's led by a star group of seniors. I want to talk about Colton Foster a little more because he's one of the most physically imposing wide receivers in your area. Three-star wide receiver, Coastal Carolina commit. What are the Chaunts getting out of him?
I mean, listen, you got a big old body right there. That's a big old boy. That's a like he's one of those type of wide receivers where you're gonna throw the ball up and he's gonna come down with it. I mean, at least 6 out of 10 times. So what you're gonna get out of him is, I'm anxious to see. Obviously they got great offensive minds over there, and Coach Eddie Jones and Coach JJ, and they're gonna, I believe, transform that kid into what we've all seen so far and what we're expecting. And that's that big body receiver that's just absolutely imposing their will. You couldn't have put it even better. Big physicality. You got a guy that, you know, you can't, you got corners that are usually 5'11", 6 foot, and they don't weigh that much. And you're going to have a fade route going at them by that big old body. Man, he's special. He's very special. I thought when I first saw him and before I knew who he was, I thought he was a tight end. That's how big he is, and that's not saying in height. I'm talking muscle and all of that. So obviously, Coastal Carolina is getting a great athlete. Coquel has himself a great athlete over there, and I believe that he's going to have one of his best seasons this year. This will be his breakout year, and potentially, I believe Treasure Coast gets a lot of underrated, or they're underrated on a huge fashion. If you ask me, Tarvis Alford, TJ Alford should be a 5-star. Champ Smith should be a 5-star. Colton Foster, he's a 4-star to me. And I'm anxious to see if these guys who are completely focused on that, because, yeah, they don't define themselves in that fashion, but it's in the back of their head. And they want to get to that level in which they prove to the experts, quote unquote, um, that they belong in that specific category. So you're going to get a great player. You're able to throw a deep ball to him. And most of all, I'm anxious to see what you're able to get the ball to him across the middle, because he's one of those guys that can work through a route and work through a DB. So you're not going to get a speedster that's going to cook you off the ledge like Tyreek Hill. To me, you're getting more of a Des Bryant that's going to just out body you. And that's what I love personally in a receiver. So I'm anxious to get over to Westwood as soon as possible and watch what they're able to put together this year as well.
I like that Des Bryant comparison. Hopefully he does catch that ball. Shout out to the Cowboys fans. But I would like to talk a little bit about a different Westwood player because, end of the day, I'm an FAU guy and you know this area a little better. Let's talk about edge rusher Cam Gooden. What are the Owls getting out of him when he makes his way to paradise? The right decision, by the way.
One of the craziest things to talk about when it comes to Cam Gooden, he just started playing football about 2, 3 years ago. Now, mind you, FAU, a great football program. I believe D1. 3 years in, and this kid is playing Division 1, or has a scholarship, fully committable to a Division 1 football program. That tells you the type of level in which he could be developed into. He's a big body. He is someone that's going to be power through you off of the edge, and humble, and a great kid. That's what I look for when I talk to kids. Is I look at their character, because football talent tells me everything I need to know. But what are you doing off of the field? How do you carry yourself to people in public? And Cam, a very, very a class act is what I would describe him. So what you are getting is a kid with endless amount of ability, because he's just a baby when it comes into the football world. For real. It's astonishing to me that he is at this level and he is just getting started into the football world. Most of these guys that we talk about, they've been playing travel football, 7-on-7, all this stuff for predominantly most of their lives. This one is just getting started.
You heard it here first. Coach Rock, please take notes. I'm taking notes. on what we can expect out of Cam Gooden. I'm really excited. He looks good in that Westwood uniform, but he'll look better in that red, white, and blue, and even in those what do we call them? The blackout unis. I forgot what we call it. Night owls. That's what we call it. Really, really cool branding. He'll look great on a couple of photo shoots at a yacht or something. But let's switch it over to a kickoff classic game. I want to talk about Jensen Beach versus Centennial. We're going to make another FAU defense callback. 5 takeaway kings. Shout out Coach Rock again. 5 defensive turnovers. How will the Falcons look to take that defense into the next step going into this year?
I was the first. I actually had a phone call with a close friend of mine. Shout out to Clyde Tiger, who is one of the best trainers around here. And we were actually talking about Jensen Beach's defense, and we were talking about if they're going to be able to continue that success. Now, one thing I learned in the NFL world, and it's a shame, but you can't hang your hat on turnovers, and that's one thing that that they produced. What you said, five turnovers against Centennial. Um, you can't really hang your hat on that, but their defensive edges are phenomenal. Number 17, I'm familiar with the name. I know that they just did an article about him, and I'm going to be ashamed when I go back and look because it's probably at the tip of my tongue. But he was phenomenal off the edge. He had a fumble recovery, and then you have Julius Purrier, who is, I believe, committed to one of the military schools. It's hard for me to keep up with all these kids, but they look like they're sharp. Once again, like I said, extremely disciplined, coached by a great coach and Coach Caffey. They look as if, you're not going to be able to throw the ball deep on them because they're tough in the secondary. They're going to provide pressure, right, off of the edge, and then some big bodies up front. And truthfully and honestly, that was one of the things that I took away from that Centennial game was the elite defense of Jensen Beach. And it made me, because I sadly haven't been able to get out to or as many Jensen Beach games over the years, it made me say I have to make sure that these guys are on my list of games that I attend to this upcoming season. I think that they're going to be able to take all that defense and be able to apply it because as great as the turnover sounded, Centennial wasn't able to get any push off of that line. They struggled in that area against Jensen Beach. And so I believe that their success on the defensive side of the ball is only going to get greater and it's only going to continue.
My last question I want to give you about avid ball knowledge is Martin County had a close, tough win over Seminole Ridge last week. Like we said, absolute nail biter. Me as a Palm Beach guy, I'm a little sad. You as a Treasure Coast guy, you're pretty happy. But the Tigers have a relatively light regular season schedule. How do you think that this team's really going to be able to come out and dominate?
Well, it's going to be just staying to what they're true to. They're one of those teams that is predicated on the run. They'll use that run to their advantage, and then they open up the pass game when they can. They lost wide receiver Tristan Taylor. He's actually over at Jensen Beach, which is ironic because every single time I get around Tristan Taylor, he just makes a play. And but Martin County, like I said, so well coached by Coach Harris, and a great program that they're going to stick to what they know and to what they're best at. They're great on defense. They're a team that builds themselves off the run and then opens it up with the pass game once they've already imposed their will in the running game. So I believe over the next course of the weeks, we'll be able to tell what they are going to be. And I believe above 500 football team, potentially maybe 1-2 losses. But we'll really know who they are in October, I believe 26th or 27th when they play against Jensen Beach. The that's the game I have circled for them, and that's where I'm excited to go out and see them. But yes, I would have to say that Martin County is going to continue with what they've been over the past course of the years, and that's consistent.
All right, Mike, before I let you go, because I know you've got some cheer practice pickups to a little Uber driver session to make for the kiddos. Before I let you go, I just want to ask you, What games are you going to be at this week? Where are you looking? What's circled on your calendar for week one?
So it's looking. I might go out to Osceola because you were talking about it. I might go out to Osceola, go see Treasure Coast. Um, that's only the real game that I've been looking at. Fort Pierce Westwood maybe and John Carroll. That looks like it could be a good game. I believe that they're playing this week, and I kind of just last week it was actually a curveball. I was actually supposed to be at Lake Wales versus Treasure Coast, but then obviously like we spoke about my relationship with TJ and RJ and Vero Beach. I couldn't miss their senior night. That was a big thing for me. I teared up a little bit watching those guys. But right now, it's looking like it could be Fort Pierce Westwood, John Carroll, or it could be Osceola versus Treasure Coast. Regardless, I can't wait to give you back the information that I get and hopefully continue our conversations like we have. And don't calling me a ball knower without calling yourself a ball knower. Nobody sits there and does photos without knowing ball. Because what a lot of people don't understand is you got to understand scheme. You got to know where the ball is going. You got to, pick a side in which where the ball might be going to. And you're one of the best photographers, maybe in not only in your area, but in the whole damn state. So you gotta give yourself some credit there, Mr. Ball Knower.
Nah, we're not going to do that. I'll let you guys gas me up. Toby says that I suck too much. So pause. But uh, before I let you go, for all the viewers at home, Mike, where can we follow you? Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever platforms. What do you got? We're plugging it right now.
So you can follow my company's page on Instagram, and that's going to be at Fabian Digital Media. Um, that's where you'll find, and truthfully, that's where I'm going to be posting all of the highlights from all the games. That's where I go to. Then you can follow me on Twitter, and I believe I actually spelled it wrong when I was trying to type. That's what I get for driving and typing. At Mike underscore Fabian 13. That's my Twitter account. You'll see me ranting about my Cleveland Browns, whether or not Ohio State is winning a football game. But most of all, that's where you're going to also be able to see the highlights of these kids playing ball. And just so everybody is aware, I'm only as good as the football players that surround me. I wouldn't be anywhere remotely close to, respectable photographer in the sports industry if it wasn't for the great athletes in the 772 and also the great mentors that I've had, whether it be Gary House, God rest his soul, from Ohio State, or it was the ESPN, the big networks that I've bounced questions off of religiously. So, I'm very grateful for where I'm at. God's put me in a position to be able to showcase some of the best talent in my area, and I'm just grateful that I'm able to do that and honored to be a part of their journey.
I completely share your same sentiments. That's the exact thing that I see. I'm not a good photographer. It is just the people that are around me make
That's
me that they elevate me to be who I am. And once again, being able to go out every Thursday and Friday night is an absolute blessing to be able to tell their stories. You know what I'm talking about.
beyond belief.
But Mike, thank you so much for your time, my friend. Go Uber around. Everybody make sure you're following Fabian Digital Media. Make sure that you're following Mike underscore Fabian 13 on Twitter. And Toby, we can take him off now. I know he wants to get his kids. But have a good one, Mike. Thank you so much. But before we hop off of the stream tonight, I want to just talk about the New Era Prep coverage schedule going into this week. I always do it. Um, Tomorrow, myself and the one and only Mr. Ryan Smith, who made those banger graphics, Benjamin versus West Boca. Like I said, real good game that I'm excited to be at. Alex, I Don't Speak, and Ken Stevens will be at Lake Worth versus Garcia. Jack J. Bart will be at Centennial versus Wellington. That is our Thursday slate. Friday, myself, Shot by Mar and I Don't Speak will be at Somerset versus Santa. Dan and Ken, so Shot by Dan and Ken Stevens, will be at TKA versus St. Andrews. Like I said, it's always a movie, that game. J. Bart will be at Dwyer versus Jupiter. Miss Riley Moore will be at Glade Central versus Seminole Ridge. Mr. Ronaldo Johnson will be at Gardens versus Atlantic. Mr. Fenton Aristome, Top Shot Files, will be at Boca High versus Boynton Beach. As of right now, that is the current week coverage. Myself, Mr. Deontay Johnson, Mr. JP Tyrone, and Mr. Shot by Dan himself will also be down at St. Thomas Aquinas on Saturday for the St. John Bosco Chaminade game and the St. Thomas Aquinas Bishop Gorman game. Before we hop off, just want to say make sure you are following New Era Prep or Era Prep on all social media accounts for up to date, accurate, fast, and reliable high school football news. Make sure that you are subbed to Bleacher Brothers on YouTube. Follow Bleacher Brothers on Twitter and Instagram. If you're not, what are you doing here? Thankful that you are here. But make sure you're following all of us on socials. We all put out good and consistent work. Make sure you're tuning into La Stella Reports, Back to the Dugouts. Not my show. I'm not good at this. But make sure all of my friends on the Bleacher Brothers Sports Network are tuning into their stuff. And if you're feeling so kind, drop a follow at Christian Proscia Photography on Instagram. Tips are always accepted, but never asked for. Before we hop off tonight, I would just like to say the regular season is back. Once again, thank you, Mike, for coming on the show. Let's have a great weekend of high school football, everybody. For New Era Prep and Bleacher Brothers, I'm Christian Proscia. Have a great rest of your night, everyone.